About 2 weeks ago, I made a predictions video on Avatar: The Way of Water, and with the help of you guys, there were around 25 predictions. Avatar's Theory here, hope you're doing well and having a fantastic day, and I've seen the movie a couple of times now, so in this video I'm going to dive back into my predictions video and just see what I got wrong and what I got right. Now it goes without saying that there will be some major spoilers going forward with this video. Moving on to the very first prediction, I said that Qauritch will have a fake out death, and as we know from the final battle between him and Jake does get him in a chokehold underwater, and then eventually Qauritch kind of passes out and Jake just lets go of his body and he sinks to the bottom of the ocean, basically, or the bottom of the sea dragon that's sinking. So that gave Jake the impression that Qauritch was dead, and for a brief moment the audience also thought that Qauritch was indeed dead, and of course we know that Spider did save him in the end, so in that sense it was a correct prediction because Qauritch did in fact have a fake out death, and Jake does believe that Qauritch did in fact die. Neteyam kills Wainfleet. Well, in fact it was the opposite way, that Wainfleet was the one to end up shooting Neteyam that ended up killing him. So even though this prediction was very close, it was just the opposite way around. Mowat dies. I believe Mowat was like in 3 scenes. The first one was with the birth of Neteyam, the second one where new Olaektan was crowned, and the third scene was where she was attending the wounds of Neteyam, but she does in fact not die in this movie. More than one sea dragon. Now I will say technically this one is correct, because of course we have the main sea dragon that takes place in the main battle of the movie, but during a scene where Qauritch and General Ardmore walks in the workshop area of Bridgehead City, we can actually see in the back that they're building another sea dragon. So technically there was more than sea dragons shown in this movie. Even though the second one was not completed, it still counts in my opinion. Spider will get his own avatar. That was a prediction that I said for quite some time now, and I was fairly confident that Spider was going to get his own avatar, but as we know, he does not get his own avatar. Do I think it's going to happen in the third movie? Maybe, but I will have to really think and maybe rewatch the second movie again, as his story will certainly be an interesting one going forward. Flashback opening scene. We know the first 10 minutes or so of the movie is entirely dedicated to flashbacks, as the movie is basically trying to catch the audience up on what's been happening since the last movie. But not only that, we do get a flashback to the ending of the first movie where the RDA forces is leaving Hell's Gate. So we did get indeed a flashback scene. Neteyam dies. Now I think this was a prediction that was fairly obvious from the marketing material. They didn't really hide the fact that he was missing through a lot of scenes, and it was a prediction that I've had for a very long time. And although his death didn't exactly happen the way I thought it would, he still died in this movie, and this counts as an accurate prediction. Parker plays golf. Well, we know that Parker is in one scene briefly, but he certainly does not play golf in that scene. Here's hope for the third movie though. Even though the Recoms did work as a team, they didn't exactly form their own rogue team, because I thought that they would kind of realize that they're more intelligent, faster, stronger than humans, and thus have their own personal mission against Jake. But we know now that the entire RDA is actually hunting for Jake. So the Recoms did not in fact form their own team. Payakan will save Loak more than once. He actually saves him 3 times, I believe. The first time is when he was about to get eaten underwater. The second time was on the sea dragon, and the third time was when Loak saved Jake when they were swimming to get air, and then Payakan comes and pushes them up to the surface. So he did in fact save Loak more than once. When I said that Kiri will have abilities, I believe I predicted that she will have some sort of abilities to control the animals, to control the ocean marine life with her mind, and she does in fact do that in the movie. Not only does she control fish, but she also has the ability to control plants. And although this isn't really explained in the movie, it does leave the door open for some interesting possibilities going forward. We in fact did not get to see Earth this time around. Spider being the son of Qauritch was a pretty badly kept secret, and I believe it was around the 30-minute mark of the movie, or at least it felt about 30 minutes into the movie. It was just outright confirmed that Spider is in fact the son of Qauritch. I'm surprised at how anticlimactic that reveal was, but regardless, we know that Spider is in fact the son of Qauritch. Qauritch did in fact know that he had a son, although he thought his son was sent back to Earth. Of course, babies cannot be put into cryosleep, so he was surprised that Spider was left on Pandora. But regardless, Qauritch did know that he had a son. General Ardmore was in only a handful of scenes, and they're likely keeping her for the third movie, as she in fact did not die in the Way of Water. Speaking of a handful of scenes, we only got a few scenes of Bridgehead City as well, which was not taken by the Na'vi. There will likely be an insane battle in the third movie happening at Bridgehead. A big part of the movie was done via voiceover by Jake, and even though he didn't do any recordings like he did in the first movie, he kept narrating throughout the movie, and at some points I kind of forgot that he was still narrating, but regardless, we did get a voiceover from Jake from beginning to the very end of the movie. When Qauritch woke up in his Recom body, he was angry, confused, and just punched and kicked everybody, so I do count this as a correct prediction, and it was only after he saw Lyle that he kinda calmed down. Even though Neteyam did die, he in fact did not have a love interest in this movie. You know, through the movie, I kept seeing similarities to the first movie, but flipped, where everything that happened to Jake in the first movie was happening to Qauritch. So almost towards the end of the movie, I was fairly certain that the movie would end with Qauritch opening his eyes like Jake did in the first movie, but in fact the movie did end just like it did with the first one, with Jake opening his eyes as we cut to the title card. So unfortunately, I did not get this prediction right. Then moving on to the 5 predictions from you guys, the first one was said that Norm would die, and I'm happy that Norm didn't die. I really hope we get to see more of him in the third movie. I could see that he might possibly die in the third movie, but he didn't die in the Way of Water. Seeing those traps around the necks of the Ikrans, I was fairly certain that those would be some sort of devices that controls the Ikrans, but it was a nice surprise to see that the Recoms was actually capturing their own Ikrans the old-fashioned way, and the same way Jake did, so there were no devices that controls the animals. This would have been a nice surprise if it did happen, but Michelle Rodriguez did in fact not return to Avatar. The Metkayina did in fact not blame Jake for the attacks. In fact, I believe in one scene Tonowari called Jake and said that the RDA was attacking villages to the south and that on his orders they did not reveal where Jake was, but I don't believe that he ever blamed Jake for the attacks. Then the final prediction was correct, where Kiri in fact did meet Grace in a very emotional scene, followed by a very scary scene where she gets a seizure and all the lights are just flickering. That was honestly one of the most interesting and scary scenes from the movie and just raised so many questions, but the prediction was in fact correct, as we did see Kiri meet Grace in memory. So looking at my 20 predictions, I got 11 of them correct, whereas the community predictions, that was 5 of them, only 1 of them was correct. So overall, out of the total of 25 predictions, only 12 of them was correct. And I do wonder if some of these predictions will happen in the third movie, like for example Moat dying, Spider getting his own avatar body, the Recoms forming their own team, Norm dying, and Parker playing golf. That's probably the most important one. We need to see Parker playing golf again. And looking back at a lot of the promotional material, I do feel that much of the movie was given away in TV spots specifically, as well as some of the trailers. There was a number of surprising scenes happening in the movie that I did not expect at all, specifically the one of Kiri getting a seizure with all of the lights just flickering, because as I said, that was quite a scary and a scene that just raises so many questions and theories. But if there's anything that you've been predicting for quite some time and that you got right, let me know in the comments below, and for more Avatar content, have a look at the rest of my channel. Until next time, have a fantastic day and stay safe.